I'm David Scranton. Thanks for clicking this video. Today we're talking about how successful investing can be simple, but not easy. We'd like to bring in our guest, Sam McElroy, partner with Stride Financial, a retirement income store located in Chicago. Sam, always great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dave.
But as you know, today we're talking about why investing is simple, but not easy. And a lot of it has to do with the emotions. And of course, what I want our viewers to know is that you actually have a doctorate in psychology. So maybe more than anybody else, you know some of the reasons that people tend to buy high and they tend to sell low, which of course is the opposite of what they're supposed to do. So bring it on. Let's hear it. What can you do to educate us in these areas? Because we all know it happens, but why is the reason?
Yeah, and one of the main issues is because we are humans. You know, we talk about the way that the mind works, and in a sense, there's a lot of fantastic, wonderful things that our brains do to try to make lives simpler and make us able to survive in this world we live in. But at the same time, many of the processes that our brains use to try to simplify things, to categorize, to jump to conclusions, also hurt us, especially from an emotional standpoint. I think that there's a greater tendency for subconscious processes, things like confirmation bias, recency effect, et cetera, that just derail our, seemingly logical decisions, and it makes us do things that we know we ought not do.
Well, in simple terms, isn't really the human nature, our wiring for the fight or flight response, isn't that really a big part of what makes people make wrong decisions?
Well, it definitely is. It's one of those things where it's easy to talk about what you're going to do until you're in the situation. So when everything is going great, it's easy to say, I don't get panicked with a little bit of volatility. It's a whole nother thing when you're seeing the market drop 10, 20, 30%, and you know that that's your life savings. And even people that have been practiced and been in the markets for decades sometimes just get nervous enough that they do what they know they shouldn't do, and they sell at the worst time. And then when they try to get back in, they miss the recovery because they wait too long to actually buy back in.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You have the emotions that can work against people. But one of the things I saw you do, which I really respect about you, is making a change in how you deal with clients, right? From your training in psychology, where you're supposed to be distant from people, not emotionally attached, and you're supposed to basically say something like, well, so how did that make you feel when you bludgeoned that person to death? To working with people's finances, where you have to be connected to their emotions because emotions are a part of it. So, how much does that help you when relating to your clients on the emotional side, something that wasn't part of your training but was learned?
Yeah, and you said it great, Dave. I mean, my natural training is no matter what people say, I'm trying to be detached from it emotionally. We talk about how, it's not my problem. I'm here to help them. I'm here to guide them, but they have to own the problem themselves. And it's still true from a financial advisory standpoint, but you do need to connect, because if you don't deal with the emotions and you look at finances, even personal finances, from too much of an analytical standpoint, you miss the practical real world implications of what decisions actually mean. I often tell clients that there's strategies that look good on paper, but you have to think about what the experience of living that out might be, because it may be very different than what it looks like on paper.
That's great advice. If they haven't lived through a major market downturn, take them through that process mentally, so they paint the picture for them, so they know what it's like, and hopefully, if they're risk averse, you can protect them from having to experience it in real life. So, bottom line, what's your bottom line recommendation right now for members of the income generation that are watching?
Yeah, to stick with this whole theme of just dealing with emotions, there's a couple of things I would say. And the first one is, let yourselves off the hook and don't feel like you have to do everything yourself, because you can't see your own biases. Those are why those are biases. You can't see your own blind spots.
Blind spots, that's right.
Exactly. And the second thing I would say is, you can't know the future. So put yourself in a position where you're already defensive enough that if something bad happens, you're not scrambling to figure out what to do. Because in a crisis, you're going to make probably the wrong decision if you haven't already pre-planned your exit strategy of how to mitigate that situation.
Great advice. Hope for the best and plan for the worst is what I always say. So I know that's part of your motto also. Sam, once again, we're out of time, but it's been really good having you back. And thanks for taking us down this lane from more of a clinical psychology standpoint, not just a financial standpoint, because it's not just about the money, it's about how people feel. And at the end of the day, as advisors, it's our job to make sure that they feel safe and secure. Sam, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.
And make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel for new content each and every week. And if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up.